Doom scrolling is filling a void. And as I've been, longer and longer into my streaks of sobriety, not smoking cannabis, I've really realized how easy it is to fall back into mindlessly scrolling. I think it's one of the easiest addictions to fall into, because unlike something like smoking weed, drinking alcohol, even something more accessible like masturbation, right? Watching porn. Doom scrolling requires no setup. It requires no ritual. It requires no space set aside for you to actually engage in the activity. It happens on its own. And I apologize if the gnats are annoying, but I guarantee it's less annoying for you than it is for my eyes that are sucking in these little bug bodies. I probably shouldn't have filmed this in the woods, but I felt inspired. I went for a little run. I've been trying to exercise more, which we'll talk about because I think that's a phenomenal way to solve this problem. But I want to start with talking about a few years ago. I was probably 24, 23 at the time, but I was struggling a lot with this experience of like mindlessly sitting on my phone. I had probably, really gotten into one of my first businesses. And if you know anything about business, entrepreneurship, the actual journey of it is a lot more of a grind than the YouTube gurus make it out to be. They make it out to be this like sexy process where you're kind of taking your life into your own control. But one of the things that they don't tell you about is it's really tough to find direction. I mean, especially if you are a person with ADHD, you kind of struggle with executive function in general, right? There's not a whole lot of direction. It's entirely self-guided. You have to be entirely motivated. You have to be clear. And when you're not, at least my experience has been, when you're not 100% intentional of what you have to do, it's very easy to find yourself in this place where your brain farts out. And that's even more extreme if you are finding that you're trying to overcome dopamine addictions, whatever they are for you in general. It's very easy to find yourself just kind of mindlessly absorbing content. And so I want to talk about what it is that I did back then, what it is that I'm doing now, and maybe you can get some insight out of this as well. I don't think this is going to be a very long video. I mean, the first thing that my brain wants to do is just straight up tell you the answer. And so let's do it. I mean, I think, number one, again, the problem is the void. The problem is that it's so easy to get that dopamine. And when you don't find yourself directed, when you aren't finding yourself intentional, the phone is in your pocket, You already have multiple social media apps loaded onto that thing. And maybe there is a degree of a ritual because you already have your ritual of which social media you flip on. This might even be one of them. YouTube is a little bit better, right? A little bit more long form. It actually requires more attention to stick with the concept. Some rambling buffoon like myself, you actually have to exercise your brain a little bit to stick with me, right? Same thing goes with audiobooks. Sure, it requires less attention. It requires less capacity to self-direct than reading a physical book, right? But it still requires you to be present. It still requires you to sit there and actually take the time, spend the energy to absorb the content. And so that's step one, right? You're not intentional. You probably don't have a set of goals that are incredibly important to you, but more important than that, it's not necessarily just having the goals. It's not necessarily, one of the things that I try to guide people through is not just setting goals, but setting your fear setting. We can do a video about that, but I find that far more motivating, right? Is to really get clarity around what could happen to you if you're not intentional. What could happen to you if you all of the negative things that you're doing in your life, I hit a dead end, sorry. All the negative things that you're doing in your life, if you just keep on doing them. But the reality is that even with these kind of more macro level concepts of who you want to become, what your goals are, who you don't want to become, right? If you stick with the negative habits that you have right now, those things, when they're not broken down to the micro level, what do I do next, right? It's very easy to find yourself overwhelmed with having to solve that problem, and then boom, your brain's immediately searching out that dopamine to get some pleasure, right? To get some relief. from the sticks in your shoes. Proverbially for you, literally for me. And so probably the first thing that you have to do, right? We'll talk about like steps to solve it in the moment, but probably the first most important thing to do is get really clear on what it is that you have to do. Now, inevitably, that stuff's probably not going to be that easy. It's still going to demand a degree of focus, right? It's still going to challenge you to actually have to stick with it and accomplish those tasks, but at least you're clear on what it is that you have to be doing, and then we can move on to the next step. Now, the next step, in my opinion, is the thing that has worked, marvelously for me when it comes to social media addiction. It's worked pretty well with me so far for overcoming cannabis addiction. And that is really just drawing a hard line in the sand. The answer is no. You do not participate in these things. No, you don't let yourself mindlessly scroll. And every time you notice yourself mindlessly scrolling, in that moment, you simply say, no, I'm done. I'm not doing this. Turn your phone off, right? Most of us, when we're scrolling, the way these algorithms work, especially things like TikTok, right? Or like Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, the way these platforms work is they're not actually supplying you the dopamine. They're holding the dopamine on a string, like a little carrot on a stick, and saying, the next video, right? That's where you'll get the dopamine. The next video is what's going to provide you the answer. And so your brain is continuously scrolling, looking for a solution, right? To a problem that you don't even know what the problem is. You don't even know what the solution is, but your brain is addicted to scrolling to find it. And so that's what you're doing. Start to notice that, right? At very least, begin to observe yourself when you're scrolling. How do you feel? And you might find that I'm correct, right? You're actually looking for something as you're scrolling, but you're never quite getting it. Every time you sit down to scroll, you will always finish scrolling just that much more frustrated than when you began. Now, a lot of people are going to argue like, my algorithm is full of motivational content. This is something I'm hearing a lot recently. I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong. I'm not here to tell you that, you're full of shit or whatever. But those of you who know, right? And that excuse is only going to take you so far. Maybe you are looking for some degree of motivation, and maybe you get it, and that's great. Try to notice when you actually do get it. Turn the phone off. Because that's what we're doing, right? We're scrolling looking for solutions that we don't know what the problem is, and we don't actually know what the solution is, but our brain thinks, hey, that solution is just one video away, one video away, one video away. Or if you're on Reddit or you're on Twitter or whatever it is, one post away, one post away, one post away. But that post ain't never coming, my friends. And so what you have to do is become aware, right? Start to notice yourself and how you feel as you're scrolling, and really just start to get yourself to stop, turn it off. Just turn the phone off. It's not turn the app off, it's turn the phone off, right? Because we will find that one app burns us out. We'll click to another app, burn ourselves out from that, and go right back to the original app. But you have to remind yourself that this is no solution. There is no solution in the doom scroll. And the solution is going to take effort, and it is going to be hard, but it won't happen until you begin, right? So that's the second step. Get really clear that this is no solution. There is only one answer to this problem, and it is simply to cut it off, right? Just turn the phone off. And if you set that intention in your mind, I guarantee this is going to become so much easier. It's like any habit, right? The more that you practice doing it, the easier it will become. You'll start to notice quicker. You'll start to turn the phone off quicker. You'll start to find that relief faster, right? And so just get started. Start today. Start right now. Well, I don't know. Maybe you finish this video. Maybe you don't finish this video. Maybe you practice right in this moment. But I do have some more value to throw to you guys. But maybe you don't look at the screen while you're listening to me. Maybe you get up and walk around the house. Walk around outside like I'm doing and just listen. But I want to bring it back to what I see as really the primary problem. Like, why is all of this happening in general? And again, it is because you have a dopaminergic void, right? You have all of this pent up dopamine. You don't have avenues of effectively directing that dopamine. And so you just kind of you're trying to burn it off like some kind of oil rig with these activities like scrolling, but the reality is it's just frustrating you even more, right? It's building up that cortisol in your mind. It's demanding even more dopamine when you finally have realized that you've had enough of scrolling, right? So the way that we solve this is by constructively utilizing our dopamine. Now, you might be well aware of this, and you just find that it's difficult to actually put it into action. And I'm right there with you. It's fucking hard sometimes. I have been in a place where, you know, I come from a past of like being really, really good about working out, but for whatever reason, the past few years, I just have not been that effective about working out. That's what I'm doing here, right? I ran to the park. I'm gonna film this video. I'm gonna do some pull-ups. I'm gonna run home. And I worked out yesterday too. I had a solid workout yesterday. And I'm already finding that it's just that much easier not to find myself mindlessly absorbing the phone, right? Mindlessly listening to like YouTube. My thing is like news, right? I'm a news junkie. I'm a political science major. I'm a big political nerd. Shit time to be a political nerd. But it's very easy for me to find myself like, oh, what's the new news? What you know, what has this person said next? You're like, what's the next like fucking crazy thing that's going on? And it's all because there's that void in my mind. But I find that when I'm actually constructive with my dopamine, it's like mellowing it out. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Like the more that you actually utilize the creative energy, the less that it controls you, right? The more you feel like you actually have control over it, the less it kind of like boils up in your mind and in your body, that tension. I'm gonna do another little 180. I cannot speak today. And so the first thing that I recommend to everybody, right, and I'm biased, right, but the first thing that I recommend to everybody is exercise. I am by no means some kind of evangelist for one thing or another. Originally, my thing was bodybuilding. I was a big bodybuilding nerd from 14 to 21. That was my focus. I loved like going in the gym, doing these kind of like isolated movements, big compound lifts. And it made me feel really good. And I spent like 2 hours a day in the gym for a long time. And you know, they say that the gym is therapy. And I think that that's a lot of men kind of take that a little too far because a lot of y'all need a real therapist. Therapy is phenomenal. I highly recommend it, but it you know, it nourishes that feeling, right? It mellows your intensity, right? It gives you more control. It makes you feel more aware and more present. And it makes you really crave those kind of big energy spikes a whole lot less, right? And so again, I'm really speaking to my homies out there that are watching this, trying to quit smoking weed. Because I've found that, you know, especially in the first like week after you try to quit, damn, it's so hard. You're craving it constantly. You find yourself so bored. And it's so easy to go to the phone. It's so easy to doom scroll. And I guarantee it's the same thing if you're trying to ditch drinking, if you're trying to ditch vaping, if you're trying to ditch like jacking off all the time. It's so helpful, you know, to channel that energy into something like working out and feel yourself be so much more mellow and relaxed. Now, the second thing, and these are all objective, my friend. So like, I know that I'm a guy out in the woods kind of rambling and I'm not being like one step at a time here. I'm trying. But I do want you to really take these steps and apply them actively, right? So I'll reiterate everything I said at the end of the video, but the last kind of objective thing that I want to talk about is being creative. And that can be different for everybody, right? For me, a lot of the time being creative is building business plans. It's building strategy. I think you know, right? When you really start to listen to your intuition, you know what it is that you want to do. I've talked about this a few times, but this year has been a really phenomenal year for me for a lot of reasons. You know, I've been more sober this year than I have been in a decade, which feels pretty great. But I've also really leaned into the idea that I have ADHD, and having ADHD means that I need to stop policing myself when it comes to my creative intentions. For a long time, what I would do is I would have all these ideas, you know. I'm a big fan of writing. I've started many screenplays, started many novels. I have 2 novels that I'm working on right now. Rap used to be like my big thing. I still rap, I still freestyle with my friends. I still write every once in a while, but I used to just churn out like a song every single day. And I don't know, I thought they were pretty dope. You can go check them out on my SoundCloud. But there kind of came a point, especially when I really first got into business, that I was listening to a lot of these one-track minded individuals. Your Alex Hormozis, you know, your Grant Cardones. Not a fan of Grant Cardone by any means anymore. I read his book 10X, and that kind of set me off of like, this guy is just like, what the fuck is this? But then it turned out Grant Cardone is a total whack job. We can debate that later on. But these guys are really one-track minded, and they're very much like, look, you got to have one thing, you got to focus on that one thing, and everything else you got to put on the back burner. And you know what? To a degree, that is true, but that might not be true for you, right? And what I found for myself was that I had all of this intention energy, right? To do things, to build things, to create things, many different things. But I would tell myself in that moment, hey, look, this is not your one thing, right? This is not your business. So cut this shit out, go work on your business. And then I would go back to working on my business, and I would just end up doom scrolling because that's just not what I wanted to do in the moment. Now, maybe there are other strategies, there's other kind of like mental mechanics that I could have used, right, to be a little bit more focused. But one of the things that I've realized this year is that no, in fact, I can do everything. I need to stop telling myself, you can't do this. You know, you're not going to become good at this. I used to like never touch my car. I used to always take my car to my uncle, who's a mechanic, for all the littlest things, and just be like, oh, you know, you're not a mechanic, so you can't do this, right? But the reality is, a lot of that shit's not that complicated, you know? And so this year I've been working on cars a whole lot more. I've learned a whole lot, and it doesn't take that long. It's like each repair takes maybe 2 hours max, right? On the you know, the high end. Now, obviously I haven't replaced an engine or swapped out a bunch of parts on a transmission or anything, but same thing goes with writing, right? I always used to tell myself like, oh, look, what, you know, you want to build this business. Are you really going to go off and become a novelist? Are you really going to go off and become a rapper, right? Well, the answer is maybe, right? You know, you got Michael Jordan out here doing every career under the sun. The guy's multi-talented, and I think a big part of it is just that he tries. He goes out and he attempts to do these things. And so, you know, I've made more progress on those 2 books that one of the books is one I've been writing forever, or brainstorming, shall we say, forever. Another one of them I started this year just to like practice writing short stories, and I've already churned out like 8 short stories. And it's all just because I stopped policing myself, right? I stopped telling myself, no, you can't do this, right? You have to be focused on this one thing. Well, maybe I am more focused on one thing than the other things, but that doesn't mean I should police myself and stop myself from doing the other things, right? I should lean into that creative energy, use it. And so that would be the final piece of advice, right? Is you have this massively, you know, capable supercomputer sitting between your temples, right? Use it. Don't stop yourself. Don't handicap it. Because the fact of the matter is, if you go into your screen settings and you look at how much time you're spending on social media every day, I guarantee that shit is like hours, right? Multiple hours. I thought I'd been doing really well, and I checked my thing out one time, and it's like, I got it down to like 3 hours, and I was like, holy shit, what was it before? For many of us, it's like 8-9 hours a day. Now, I'm not saying you're spending all of that time scrolling, but a fair amount of it probably, right? And so just to reiterate, right, the first and foremost, the reason this is happening to you is because there's a void, right? You're craving dopamine, you're craving some type of accomplishment, you're craving movement in your life. And social media, right, these kind of digital algorithms are fulfilling that more effectively than anything in history, right? It's visual, it's auditory, it's tailored to you, right? Quick leap. Oh, it's designed to brainwash you, right? We've got some of the best neurologists, psychologists in the world working with these algorithms to make them as addictive as possible, right? And so if you have this energetic void, right, you're not channeling that energy, it's going to be super easy to scroll. The second thing is just to set that hard line that you're done. Don't scroll, right? I know it's like, it sounds too good to be true, but it really is that easy. I think a lot of addictions, science invites us to identify the addictions as an affliction, like an illness, right? But the hard truth of the matter is that with a lot of these things, you still have to actively choose to engage with them, right? I shared this example on my live the other day and I got a lot of pushback, but the fact of the matter is with weed, right? You have to go out and buy the nuggets. You have to put them in your grinder. You have to grind them up. You then put it in your apparatus and smoke it. All of that requires you, right, to make multiple decisions in a row. Now, phone addiction's a little bit easier. The shit's in your pocket all the time. You can just take it out at any given moment and boom, start mindlessly scrolling. But in that process, you are still in control. Now, once you're high, you can't choose not to be high, right? If you're addicted to heroin or crack or something, like once you inject that shit into your veins, it's in there, right? Like you can't choose not to be high. But there was a sequence of events leading up to that point that at any given moment, you could have chosen to stop. The phenomenal thing about being addicted to your phone is that at any given moment, you can choose to stop. And so that's what you have to do. You have to set that intention to yourself that as soon as I find myself doom scrolling, I'm done, right? Don't give into the fucking narratives. We all have all of these nonsensical narratives in our head about what's important, what's helping me, what's working. You need to start practicing trusting yourself in what you actually know to be true, right? And what you know to be true is that this is not serving you, right? Is that you are creating all kinds of reasons as to why you're doing this on the surface, but subconsciously you know that it's fucking you up, right? So just stop. And so set that intention, draw that hard line in the sand to stop, and I guarantee it will get easier with time. And this is one of the things that I tell a lot of people that are trying to quit weed is like, they'll be like, oh man, I went a week and then I smoked again. I'm like, oh man, I'm so ashamed. And it's like, I'm never gonna escape this. And it's like, dog, you went a week. That's incredible. Like, when's the last time you went a week? Guess what? Next time you try, it'll be just that much easier to go 2 weeks, right? I have people telling me like, oh man, I smoked after 6 months and now I'm like I smoked again. And it's like, oh man, I'm so ashamed. I'm never gonna get away from this. I'm like, 6 months? Dude, that's crazy. That's great. Next time you'll do 7 months, right? 6 months is an incredible amount of time to overcome something. Do better next time. And the only way that you're going to do better next time if you try again. Got to include a little word there for proper grammar or whatever. Not very linguistically capable sometimes, but that's okay. You're still here. So that's what I would say to you, right? Is just start to be mindful, right? Just start to be aware of what you're doing. Be present, right? Use that little stoic technique of imagining yourself behind yourself. You are the observer, right? Watch what you're doing. Notice how you're feeling, right? And then make a decision in that moment. Just turn it off. You're going to feel so much better. You'll notice instantaneously the way that your brain changes the second that you turn your phone off and you look away, right? The second that you're no longer looking at that screen, you will actually feel different. Boom, instantaneously. So, and then finally, this is just going to keep happening if you don't have effective channels, right? So start to become aware of like what it is that you want to do as far as your creativity. Every single person wants to like learn how a music software works or get back into painting. You hear this from people all the time, like, I really wish I could get back in. Bro, just do it. Like, what, do you really think that you're gonna paint the Mona Lisa tomorrow? Is that what you're preparing for? Like, are you preparing to just like, you can't start until you know that you're ready to just make the most kick-ass, culturally transformative piece of art? Guess what? That ain't gonna happen. I heard this quote, I think it was from like Henry David Thoreau or something. And someone asked him, How is it that you come up with these incredible ideas all the time? And he was like, I don't know. It just seems to strike me every morning at 9 a.m. when I sit down to write. And what he's saying is that it's the discipline of showing up. It's not that he's like some, creative genius. I mean, maybe he is, right? But I think most people are more capable than they give themselves credit for. And all it's missing is really just the discipline to show up and do it consistently. And I say discipline as though it's this, it's this behemoth of a concept that you really have to prepare for. And it's like, it's so daunting to like discipline. What if discipline just meant that every day you sat down and wrote a few words? What if discipline just meant that you had a little sketchbook nearby and you just practiced, right? You just started to exercise your brain's creativity. That's all it is. And so start to get clear. Like, what do you want to do? Every single time your intuition delivers you an idea of what to do, just follow it. If you have 10 minutes, just follow it. Just go do it, right? Every single one of you has a notes app in your phone. Hey, there's a more effective way to use your phone, right? Switch off the social media and go to the notes app. The motivation that you're looking for, the inspiration that you're looking for, it's right in here, right? You just have to give yourself the silence, right? You have to give yourself the quiet to actually make it happen. And then exercise. I think exercise is just the easiest way to really start to channel some of that energy, get it out of you, and then actually have a little bit more of a mellow nature about yourself. Thus, it's easier to be more intentional and direct that intention. So that's what I got. Just some thoughts on curbing the doom scrolling. If you guys have any questions or comments, drop them below. If you want to ask me a question personally, send me an email. I really appreciate those of you that hit that subscribe button, hit that little notification bell, so you know when my videos come out. And I want to hear from you guys. What's on your mind? But until then, see you next time. Adios.